There we go.
There we go. Hello again, everybody out there on the screens. For those who don't know me yet, I'm Tommy Kreis, working since many ages for Festool in the training department, doing dealer trainings as well as Julian is doing end customer trainings. And from my point of view, I'm still very active together with multiplicators to train end customers. Today with me in our third session to finalize the whole project 18 volt, I have Julian with me again. For those who don't know him yet, again, a couple of words from your point of view.
So my job is basically service in a way. So I explain tools to customers, to dealers also, but Thomas is doing it right here at the headquarters. I'm doing it on job sites, in their workshops, at dealers, at big fairs, basically wherever, with a van full of tools all day, driving around explaining tools. But due to Corona, we're a bit limited, so that's why we do the live videos.
Well, so today I think we have to go through the oscillator as well as the angle grinders and finally the insulation saw. Is that correct?
Exactly.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
The last three to four machines.
Okay, so I think we will gonna start briefly with the oscillator. So what is your point of view?
The oscillator, it's a love-hate machine for a lot of people, because
Why is this?
Because always it's slightly noisy. You don't really need it that often, but when you need it, you have to have it.
You have to have it. Okay.
That's the thing. So it's a really specific machine. It's not the machine that you can use for anything, but the purposes that you need it for it's just necessary to have it, basically.
Yeah, it's a must-have. Could come in such a nice sustainer, as you know it from Festool. Most of our sold tools are leaving the company in a sustainer. And if you take a closer look inside, you can see how nicely everything is organized. So if you attach this with all the possible accessories, or if you purchase a set, everything finds its place inside, such as the charger, the plunge control, dust extraction cover, and of course much space for both battery packs or saw plates.
Exactly. And if you kind of forget how everything fits in there, there's always a picture on top of the sustainer that explains where everything goes.
How to fit. Well, this is the object we talk about today.
Yep.
And one thing which is very to be pointed out is that we have a dampening system. That means we look pretty carefully to the health of our end customers. In this case, that's definitely a machine which lives from vibrations.
Yep.
And as you all know, you might have this experience as well, Phil. Vibrations are annoying, just annoying. Yeah. So that's why that's a very clever system. Maybe you can see this on the camera, how this is flexing and is eliminating that way to prevent from getting vibrations from the blade to your wrist.
Exactly. So the machine vibrates a lot as soon as you hit a surface, and basically what it does, it protects your wrists and your fingers from getting in touch with those vibrations.
Yeah. While you talk about performance, we are delivering a machine which has an inclination of 2 degrees either side.
Yeah.
So that means if you compare this with many of our competitors, there might be some which are only 1.3, 1.5 degree. So at the end of the day, we have a much faster working process.
Exactly.
So how to attach a saw blade? Quite simple. So that new OSC 18 comes in with this new star lock mechanism that is quite easy to attach a saw blade. So in next to no time, and whatever angle it is, you just click it on and that's it.
Exactly.
As easy as that.
So important to know, it's Starlock Max, so it includes Starlock Max, Starlock Plus, and the regular Starlock.
That's correct.
Later on, we're going to talk about the different saw blades, what saw blade for what material, and so on and so forth. And there you can see the different basically openings
Connectors.
that are, or connectors that are used for that. So as soon as it is a Starlock blade, it basically fits on the machine.
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
And you can attach it in any possible angle wherever you reach your spot in the best possible way.
Even backwards, even though it makes no sense.
Yeah, it does not make sense, but at least you
Good.
can't hurt yourself. Alright, let's attach it like this. Now, if you have a blade this length, of course you can imagine that this is quite wobbly if you have to plunge in somewhere.
Yeah, if you want to hit a specific spot, it's almost impossible.
That's one of the annoying things. If you want to have a halfway accurate cut,
Yeah.
it's tricky. Yeah?
Definitely.
And that's why we were coming out with an attachment.
Mm-hmm.
I will show you in a minute. Looks like this.
So
Works a little bit like a router. It has two guide columns, and these guide columns enable the plunge for the saw blade.
and it's spring loaded, so it always goes back up.
Goes up. What I show you here is a depth control. That means if you have to achieve a limited cutting depth, that's quite easy to set. And later on I will show you exactly how this works. Another annoying thing when working with oscillators, I think that's something you might know as well,
Yep.
is always that you have a lot of dust around.
Yep.
So it's next to impossible to have a decent dust extraction on an oscillator.
Yep.
And that's why this attachment also could be supplied by any industrial dust extractor that makes life much easier. And now I think you can imagine already that we again have a nice link to our Festool dust extractors in conjunction with Bluetooth battery packs and the built-in module that activates the Dusty in the moment you switch on your tool.
Exactly. So we already have the MIDI in the back, the new one
It's
that
already
has
prepared.
a Bluetooth module included. We already put on a battery
Yeah.
that has the Bluetooth function. So on the oscillator is a new battery pack. It's a 4.0 ampere hours battery pack. So it's the high power battery pack. So it has the size, or it is way smaller than the big 5.2 battery pack,
Yeah.
but it has the same power. So we always recommend the oscillator with one of those two smaller batteries, either
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
4.0 or the 3.1,
Yeah.
because then it's really well balanced and it's definitely sufficient in battery life and power.
I fully agree, especially if you have some overhead applications where the weight absolutely matters. That's really more than enough.
Exactly.
How to attach the guide, let's say. As you can see, we have two marks here, two triangles. And these needs to be lined up with the attachment.
I think
I'll-
I need to check the camera again.
Did you? What a pity.
Should we switch the
Yeah.
gimbal?
Shall we
So
move
we have
over here?
some
Technical
issues.
Yeah, that
That's fine.
doesn't disturb us.
So you put the two basically arrows or triangles
I just line them up, and then I can release that lever.
a bit
On
further
top.
up. Yep.
And then I have some presets where I can fix the whole thing, or I can attach it from the opposite side, yeah, and line it up like this.
And you always have specific angles that you can use, so it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be straightforward. It can be on edges,
It's
around
always
corners.
30-degree angles.
Perfect.
Something else that is quite neat is that we built in a little magnet right here. And earlier we received a question from a follower. What is the effect of the magnet?
Yeah, what does it do? Why is there a magnet? Talk
Yeah.
about magnets.
The flexible blades, actually, they got an additional guide down there.
So it basically pulls the blade towards the attachment, and then
That's
it will cut straight. You will exactly
Keeps
hit
it
your
straight.
mark. Perfect. And at the bottom, there's like some rubber on it, so it fits.
Yeah, it's kind of a surface protection.
Yeah.
And it also prevents from slipping, even on smooth surfaces like this.
Yeah.
It's really hard. So if once you found your final position, it's quite perfect.
It's kind of like the black pieces on the bottom of guide rails and stuff like that. So anyway,
Yeah, now finally, if we have such a nice application right here. So this is a cutout for a divider. Once we need to spread our power supply for lighting systems or whatever, we need to have that divider right here in this spot. So I mark the circumference.
Yep.
And finally, I have to cut it out. So that means I have an overcut application where nicely the dust is able to fall into my eyes. And that's why dust extraction is really, really smart.
It's key, basically. So
Now-
we only have to basically connect the battery pack to the dust extractor, and then we would be good to go.
That's good. Before I will just set the cutting depth because I don't know what's behind the panel.
Yeah, there could be some lining,
Yeah.
some insulation, whatever.
So just find the final cutting depth and fix that little depth control right there, and so I can plunge in and have always the same
Okay.
continuous cutting depth. Okay?
So
That's-
screw it tight because the machine vibrates a lot, and if you don't really screw it tight, it can get loose.
I always tighten my screws well. Don't be afraid.
Perfect.
That's what I'm famous for. Tight screws.
It's a thing. So we're good to go. We got the mobile camera ready again.
Okay, once again we have this bayonet locking mechanism that really bends the standard tape out of our workshops, because with a single twist I've
It's completely locked.
completely locked and can't come off. Now to let the dust extractor communicate with our OSC, I can again either use the control of
Yep.
the remote, or I will just activate
By hand, if you don't
this
have the
manually
remote.
with this as soon as this blue button is illuminated. I have connected the whole thing. Now finally, one thing we also have to talk about is speed control. Okay, we have a dial right here that enables us to set various speeds,
Yep.
depending of course on the material, but also depending a little bit on the blade. And just to give you an idea, if you watch our blades, you got a little indicator that's this trapezoidal shape with this 4 in it.
There we go. Now it's sharp. There.
And that's a recommended speed set. Of course, you might vary it on your own, but that's the recommended speed set from Festool. So once I attach this and I can double check, okay, I put the dial on position 4, or more or less. That's the ideal speed. So what the effect is, basically a longer service life. So not always full speed, because you make your saw blade quite easy, pretty blunt, and then you have to throw it away. So you can extend your service life by far if you have a decent speed. Now, I can nicely line up the whole thing. It might be possible that you can see this. So I'm not cutting out the entire set, but you have seen we were plunging in and there was next to no dust
Yeah, the
falling
only
down.
dust is just like.
Yeah, a
right
little bit
there.
on the surface.
But we have different dust, but
No plaster dust. Yeah,
from the plaster. It's just dirty in general.
that's a workshop.
Yeah, that's just
training
oh,
room,
Jesus. So what just came to mind, there's a couple of more possible attachments that you could use for the oscillator.
Yeah, that's
Um,
correct.
Just to quickly show them. So there's a second dust extraction, so you don't have to use the plunger for it. You can just, if you want to freehand it for whatever purpose, if there's not enough room but you still want a dust extraction, you can just attach the tiny piece. There we go. So,
Again, to be set in these 30-degree angles,
yep,
at least on one side, so that collects the dust and makes, for example, sense if you are working with a shorter blade.
oh, and the plunger only works with the long blades.
Yeah, that's a very important message. Only with a long blade. So if you have a shorter blade like this, just to work maybe somewhere it
In
doesn't
wood.
fit properly, you have to touch this up, then you can easily collect your dust.
Exactly. Works best if you attach a hose.
Absolutely, yeah.
And
Fully agree.
there's two more depth control possibilities. One of them I especially like if you wanna, I don't know, you have to do some more new flooring
Yeah.
in a house, and the doors are already set. So you kind of have to shorten them because the floor gets, whatever, it's a bit wide, a bit thicker, and it wouldn't fit underneath. So what you can do if you want to basically extend the life of your saw blades, if you don't want to throw a blade away after every door frame, you attach this tiny little piece and check your depth.
Okay, good. Yeah. So that's, for example, the depth control is foldable. So if that would be your door frame, you could basically control the depth like this. You set it. Oh, it's the other way around.
Yeah, well.
Yeah. You can set this plunge. If this is the depth, for example, of your rebate, then you easily can stop this right in advance before the saw blade hits your wall.
Concrete, stone, whatever is there.
Whatever is underneath.
Exactly. And there's a second attachment for it if
Yeah.
you want to have, if you want to cut flooring or something, something longer. That's a tiny shoe, but
Give me a second. That's quite neat if you have, for example, flooring panels.
Yep.
Tongue and groove boards.
Yep.
And you have to finally maybe remove your tongue in the shadow groove along the wall.
Mm-hmm.
You can again line this up like that. And it would attach one of the round blades, and that's basically then an option to set the depth.
To a couple of mil.
So if you imagine here we would have a tongue right there, then I could use this as a kind of a base table and cut along my tongue board to cut off that protruding lip.
Exactly. And that's basically all the accessories we got. So,
And with a single view into your
We need to
sustainer.
switch again because it's not working.
camera switch.
Switching.
Number 2. Roundabout. So,
Are we live again?
Yeah.
we are live again. So we got everything around the oscillator. I would quickly talk about the different saw blades and materials.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, you can already prep
The next
angle
topic.
grinder.
Correct.
So,
See you in a minute.
yeah. So, with those blades, they are also color coded, same as for the jigsaw or the circular saw, but only the packaging. So on the blade itself, there's always marking but no color. So we got 2 blades for hardwoods or just wood in general. As you can see, the teeth are kind of like on Japanese saws, really sharp and fine. Then we have those universal blades, basically that's why there's written uni on it. Those are for all different kinds of wooden materials, MDF for example, or particle board, or also for plaster boards. And that's the wooden blade that Tommy talked about a couple of minutes ago for floorboards or any other material like this. Then those are coated with diamonds, so they are for tiles. And last but not least, we got those 2 specific ones, and those are for thermoelastic materials, same kind of like glue for what's the word, for flooring, or the material that's used to hold glass in window frames. So I'm gonna move over, and I think we're good to go.
Just waiting for you.
Yeah.
Took a while, but okay.
Sorry.
Quality always takes time. That's
Exactly.
quite normal. Well, our next topic we will talk about is the new angle grinder.
Yep.
The AGC 18, which comes in, let's say, 2 versions.
Yep.
So we have just a standard angle grinder, a regular angle grinder for whatever application you can imagine.
Shortened
Cutting a
rebar,
threaded-
whatever.
Yeah, whatever piece of metal. It's not made for shipyards. It's just for the short and quickly appearing applications that you don't want to do with a corded machine. The other machine is what we point out in the next minute. First of all, it's important if we talk about cutting or grinding. Let's say we are talking about bond cutting discs, and these require another cover, another protection cover, because as they are extremely thin. Once you make a little mistake, they might crack.
Yeah,
And
so
that-
if you
that-
kind of angle it too much,
That carries an enormous risk of injuring yourself. That's why we have to remove that cover, which is quite easy to be done. You have a release switch right there. You fold it up front, and off you go. And that's what you attach then. The other cover, which you can see, is closed.
so the closed one is for cutting and the open one is for grinding.
That's the way.
That kind of.
So again, you attach it this way, and then you can fold it around and have a couple of presets to reach a comfortable position. And then finally, you would attach your grinding disc, and off you go. One thing which I think is also important is that these bond discs have a kind of a expiry date.
Yep.
Yeah, because it's made from resin, and due to the ultraviolet radiation, this might affect the bond. So that means if they become too old, they can easily break.
So on that tiny metal ring, there is the number 2022.
That's 2022. So that's from now on, let's say 2.5 more years. After that, you have a higher risk of getting a broken disc. Yeah. So that's all. Now I think everyone can imagine what we are going to do with an angle grinder. Don't need to basically work with it. But more interesting is the other option, the DSC, the diamond cutting system, which is basically the same machine. It's hidden right there.
But turn around 180.
Yeah, if you compare them, so now we have both the switch on the top. You can see we had to turn around the gearbox by 180 degrees.
Because one is pull, one is push.
Yeah, an angle grinder usually works on the pull
Yep.
in conjunction with your additional handle, and that's also part of the content. You can attach it either on this side or of course on the other hand side, so the threads are on either side, and it's so-called viper stop handle.
People might know it. It's also included with the Rotex 150.
Similar.
For example.
Any machine that has an additional handle
Yep.
usually comes with this viper stop. So that's also a kind of a dampening system to eliminate the vibrations.
Yeah.
As we had it on the oscillator.
Exactly.
So that's again a machine that can really heavily vibrate.
Yeah.
All right. Just put this back.
One thing that I just saw
Yep.
that you placed here prominently. What's up with that?
That's the, let's say, the heart of the machine. That's the engine. And that's a brushless motor which is completely encapsulated.
Okay.
That means no matter which tool it is, for Festool it's standard that we can deliver, that we can serve a 3 years warranty. Many other market suppliers do this as well, except for angle grinders. They also know any tool but no angle grinder, because it's really a heavy duty tool which receives a lot of force and a lot of load, and that's why we are more than convinced that with our equipment we easily can serve a 3-year warranty, because the motor is completely encapsulated. There's no dust penetrating in that can affect the service life, and so is also the electronic that monitors that brushless motor. It's also completely sealed so that the dust has no effect on the service life of both motor or electronic unit.
So we can guarantee that it's going to work for 3 years. And if it's not, if there's an issue with it, we're repairing it for free, of course,
That's
free
the
of
point.
charge.
That's
And
the
that always also includes the battery pack.
Yeah.
Don't forget about that. So if there's an issue with that, just send it in, we'll repair it, or you'll get a new one.
As well as the charger.
As well as the charger, of course.
Right. Now, we talked about that the diamond cutting system, of course, uses different tools. So here we have diamond cutting discs. There's a various number. So here we have 3 out of 4 available discs. The difference is, I would say, the bond, how the diamonds are fixed on that disc. This one, if I take a close look on that, is a segmented disc which is designed for concrete.
Mm-hmm.
And what is it you will find in concrete usually?
There's stones in there. There's could be tiny pieces of, should not be, but rebar.
If you have a decent concrete, you have a steel reinforcement.
Yeah.
That ruins any disc. So that's
Yeah.
why we have a special disc that is able to cut through this reinforcement. On the other hand side, the disc which is now built in, that's a standard disc. That means on any other material except concrete, you can use this.
Mm-hmm.
It's coming in with a harder bond. So on the concrete disc, we have a softer bond because the concrete is very hard. So that means you have the counterparts always together. Yeah?
In my head, it never really made. It was logical, but it makes totally sense.
Absolutely. It's like man and woman, hot and cold, fire and water. Yes, things like this, always the counterparts together. So you have a hard material that you deal with, you need to have a softer tool.
Yep.
Because what happens, the diamond is getting blunt, and if the cutting pressure is getting more and more, then the fresh diamond or the blunt diamond breaks out and the fresh diamond is in place. So you have a continuous work. And that's the difference. So we deal with different bonds for different materials.
And the third blade?
That's a special blade designed for tiles.
Mm-hmm.
It's completely not segmented and it's pretty fine.
Mm-hmm.
And if you talk about cutting on tiles, you might have worked before on some other materials, on concrete, on mortar or whatever, and you can see some scratches.
Yeah.
And some tiles are pretty sensitive, and that's why we can also deliver a protective cover that's just snapped on like this, and that gives you a nice service protection on your tiles.
It's always included with the machine. If you kind of ruined it because you forgot to take it off and scratch it or whatever, you can easily replace it. It's no biggie.
As easy as that. Well, as you have seen, I always have dealt without the battery pack, although I checked the fixing of the blade. I'm not sure whether this battery pack, which is also a Bluetooth, is connected to my dust extractor. So we can just shortly check this. No, it's not, but meanwhile we know exactly how this works. Either we do have the remote control, or we use the
button
on the module.
Which also I might want to point out, that module is not included with the dust extractor. It's an older extractor, it's a CT36,
Yeah.
and for those ones, for the 26 and the 48 ones, that module can be just put
Attached.
attached. It's totally
You
easy
can
to do.
convert it. Yeah.
Exactly, so you can.
One hint which is very important, as long as you still have some warranty on your dust extractor, let this do by an electrician.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you would lose your warranty.
Always has to be
If
done
it's
by
older
electrician.
than, let's say, 4 years or so, basically it's a kind of a plug-and-play version.
Yep.
You remove the old panel, you attach the new display and the new module, and that's it.
So you also don't have to connect cables or
No,
anything.
nothing.
It's just
It's all
plug in
pre-installed.
and good. But let a professional do the work,
Yeah.
and then you're safe.
Now I just put that small button on our remote,
Yep.
which enables me to connect again the battery pack to my dust extraction. Now I connect the hose again with the bayonet to my extraction hood. And if we talk about angle grinders fitted with diamond disc, cutting some stony materials, you always are aware of, he's moving backwards, you always are aware of a hell of a lot of dust.
Yeah.
And if I would tell you, you don't need to be worried, nobody would believe me. So that's why I just want to prove it and cut out in this roof tile just a little section, and you might see only less dust. Yeah. Of course, what's very important is your personal protection equipment, such as safety goggles and maybe earplugs.
Sorry for the shaky camera. I'm one-handed.
You're one-handed? Okay.
No, I'm good.
If I turn on the machine now, maybe you have to reduce your volume on the headsets or on the loudspeakers.
Noise.
Did you see much dust?
Nope.
I didn't either. So that shows the efficiency of that dust extraction system.
Important is though, if you do a cut like this, the front part has to be on the surface. Surface. If you lift it up slightly, the dust is gonna blow out. But you're only gonna make that mistake once.
Well, if you take a closer look on that cover, maybe for some reasons you have to follow a scribe line. You get a marking, an indicator on that hood that enables you to line up properly, because exactly on that spot you can see the diamond disc is positioned.
And for example, you were pointing out cutting concrete, so you have to make some cuts in concrete, and you have to do it from wall to wall.
Yeah.
There's always the issue that with the hood, you won't be able to move all the way to the end of the floor or to the wall.
With that particular hood I could, because you see another green lever, so I can open up this and cut right into the wall. That means that would be my wall. I would go continuously towards the wall, and then if I reach that particular spot, I can open the cover and just plunge into the wall.
Perfect.
And due to this small gap, the dust extractor anyway collects most of the dust. So there's no big mess around.
Cool. So that's it.
That's pretty much.
So we can basically move on to the third machine or fourth machine.
Yeah, just really.
So I'm just doing a short roundup. So we're doing it the other way around now. The last time I was explaining the different saw blades last. Now I'm going to explain the materials first. So we're going to talk about the cordless insulation saw, which is still pretty new. I think it came out in 2018. And those are some of the materials that are possible to cut with that saw. So on the left side, the four materials are the soft materials. So that's, as you can see, it's wood fiber, hemp, rock wool, and glass wool. Those are possible. There's also some polyester stuff that you can cut, but we did not include it here because it's really rare. And then with a different blade, you can cut harder materials, which is usually used outside to insulate walls. And that is all like polystyrene, rock wool in the hard form, and different polyurethane materials. Talking about the saw.
Yep.
So we have different materials, hard materials, soft materials, and therefore we need different blades.
Of course, yeah. Here you can see how it finally could look like. So that's a no sorrow package, let's say, because
Yeah.
whatever appears, you can deal with it. So we have the chance to really attach every single blade inside, which are available both for the dense material, insulating materials, as well as for the soft materials. And both are available not only in 240 mil length, that's where the name of the saw is coming from, ISC 240. We can also supply some 350s.
So if you have really, really thick material, or you have like 20 material that you have to cut in like 45 degree in a miter, then you need a longer blade.
At present, the thickest materials are 24 centimeters in thickness. So if you need to do a diagonal cut, that's why you need to have a longer blade.
Yeah.
And these are placed on top, as you have seen, in a diagonal way. That's the basic machine. And again, we have out of the 18 volt segment the option, like with any other 18 volt machine, that we can purchase it in a basic version once you have already a set of battery packs and a charger. Yeah, you can do this however you like. Basically, the saw looks a little bit like a jigsaw, but with different handles, because you can operate it either like this, or you can operate it the other way around, like this.
It looks super weird if there's no blade attached, because
Yeah.
it's like, my brain is, what?
Yeah,
Ah,
it's overloaded.
but it's gonna make sense.
So here we do have two blades. So all the silver, silver shiny blades are the ones with the corrugated knives, which are similar to, let's say, a kind of a bread knife for soft materials. Yeah,
Interesting.
it's more or less the same. And that was really, for a long time, the option of using bread knives to cut your insulating material to size. And it's a little bit annoying because it takes time, it's sometimes really hard, it's inaccurate, and so on and so on. So that's why Festool came out with this ISC 240 to have a decent machine to work in an economic way with all these different insulating materials, no matter whether they are dense or soft.
Yeah, quick and efficient and light. So the whole machine, with blades, with battery packs, with charger and everything, is fit in a Sustainer 3.
Easy.
So super easy.
Now, how to attach your blades? Do you have a preference which one to start with? Soft or hard?
Soft.
Soft, okay. So there you can see I prepared already two blades, because it makes a difference. Of course, you can work with a single blade on either, but here I have put a sticker on it for mineral fibers.
Yep.
That means once you have had something like glass fiber reinforced or rock wool or something like this, I mean, that has from the very beginning a certain effect on the sharpness of your blade.
Yep.
And once you move over to a soft wooden-based insulation material, you might have not the same cutting performance. That's why it makes sense to have two blades available. The only thing maybe is, theoretically is enough if you just replace the blade itself.
Yeah, but yeah.
But it's way more comfortable if you have a second set.
Yep. So what I do in my van, I always have a Sharpie on me. I just mark mineral on it, or just make a plus on top. Whatever works for you. Just get a mark on it, because otherwise, if you're working with a lot of colleagues or something, they might use a different material, and then the blade is basically going to be dull for, let's say, hemp or for wood fiber.
Yeah.
So
correct.
just keep an eye on it.
Yeah. So I think we might cut one of these soft wood fiber insulations.
Hard to cut.
It's hard to cut. You could just give them, excuse me, a short sample with your bread knife. How that will work. I can hold the camera for you.
Always have to do the hard work.
Yeah, that's life.
So it works. It's ripping though, and it's makes a lot of dust, and it's a hassle.
Basically, I would say you ruin the whole thing more than you basically cut it.
Yeah.
So that's why we need to have another option.
Switcheroo.
So how to attach the blades? There are different possibilities, and everyone probably may find his own version. So
Yeah.
my favorite is that I am able to just really grab the whole thing in a proper way.
So you keep the guard on, but
keep
you
the
pull
protection,
the blade all the way to the top.
which is achieved now.
Exactly. So I kind of always say, look, that those two are almost on a
On
line,
the same level, yeah.
and then you're good to go. Because you can pull it further, but then it just plops out of the tiny guide rail here.
That's it. Now then you have the connector to the gearbox. Just slide it in like
Slightly
that.
angled, same as with the jigsaw.
Again, slide it out. all the way in. And finally you have two locating pins down there. These ones.
Mhm.
See these? You have two locating pins that hold the blade, the guide in position. And after that you can easily
And if some
tighten the
people
housing.
see a lot of similarities to a jigsaw, yeah, they are slightly similar, but please do not put in any jigsaw blades and try to cut wood with it, because it's gonna ruin the whole machine.
That's it. And once you have attached the blade, you finally slip off your guide, because then you have your protection to the very last moment and off you go. So because I'm doing it that way because I made already some bad experiences.
Yeah, it's funny because I have the totally different technique,
Yeah.
but
As soon as it works, that's why I said
Yeah.
everyone has to find his own solution. Well, if you take a close look around the machine, you see the switches on either side, both again for lefties or righties.
Yep.
And we have a safety switch. So once I attach my battery pack, with just a single press, I'm unable to start the machine. Because when carrying the machine, it's quite easy to have connection to the, or that you activate the switch. So you need, like on your personal computer or the mouse, a double click and a single click to stop.
Yeah.
And because we also have a brushless motor inside, you can hear how fast the brake works. So in next to no time it stops, double click, cutting off.
Just so people do not get confused, what Tommy does, he starts it on one side and ends or stops the machine on the other side. That's not necessary. You can
No,
use
of
it
course.
either right or left. It's just for showing purposes,
That's it.
because that's probably a question that's gonna pop up on people's minds. Exactly. Just
So
so.
also can activate and deactivate the saw.
So it's left, as you
Six.
said, lefties,
Yeah.
righties, for whatever position you're going to use it, either on a guide rail or free-handed. You're good to go.
Now finally, if we have seen Phil struggling with the material to cut,
Yeah, and you get the good machine now.
it's a
That's
nightmare.
not fair.
Right? Once you have find the proper setting, because maybe you have noticed that we have two blades in there.
Yeah.
I can just show this on maybe on the other.
Yeah, it's easier.
So we have two blades, like the maybe famous Mulinex knife you might know from your kitchen. Some of you might know this as well. There we have two blades which work in a counter process. That's what we thought about at first as well, but this didn't work. So that finally we found out, okay, we need to have one blade which is also corrugated, that keeps that soft insulation in place, and the other one basically cuts it in half.
So the standing blade basically holds it, and the movable blade cuts it.
That's it. And that means at the end of the day that when it comes to a replacement, you also have to replace only one blade.
Yeah.
The other
Just
one
moving blade.
doesn't get any.
One thing though, before you start to cut,
Yep.
so there's two levers on
settings.
it.
Yep.
So grab that. Use the back side, that's perfect for it.
The back side, okay. You can use this with a cutter or with a knife or with a screwdriver.
Whatever you got.
And there you can see how I switch the fixed blade back and forth.
In depth, basically.
Yeah, and that is something you need to find out, because it's impossible to say on that material you need to have this and that position. You need to find it out because the materials, they vary.
Exactly,
So
it always
there's
depends.
Sometimes a single click already makes a big difference
big
between
difference.
success and missuccess.
So my experience for wood fiber is the way you've had it, so all the way down on the bottom one, and on the top one or two clicks in the back, and then you should be good to go. But if you cut hemp, if you cut glass wool, it always varies slightly.
No. So we explained already the different handles. As you can see, if I have to cut the material like this, it's pretty hard to maneuver that way. So that's why we have this additional handle that allows us to turn it around and to use it in a pretty comfortable way. Now just try to continue your cut. You already started.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, well,
Any
Slight
question?
difference.
Any question left?
Nope.
I guess
And
no.
also important, you cut to the ground without
Yeah.
hesitation.
Yeah, without any damage of the blade, because we have a little hook on the bottom that has let's say a multi-function.
Yep.
But it, first of all, for these applications, it protects the blade from any damage on the ground.
So if the floor or the ground is just straight and not has like stones on it or
Yeah.
something, you can go all the way down without cutting
Yeah.
into the floor or ruining your
In the
blade.
profile, you can see what we achieved.
Decent.
Yep.
So that's freehanding it.
That's freehand. Yeah.
If you
One
want to be
option.
really precise.
Yeah. If you have to put it on your roof, maybe somewhere in between your
In between two studs or
roof
something.
timbers,
yeah.
two studs like this, then you would just line it up with a little pressure, and you could use the basic blade as a kind of a guide along your rafter.
Yeah.
You just move it up. Some of these insulation materials are also rolled up. So
Mhm.
I've seen carpenters already just unrolling the insulation material and just using the isolation saw and moving down and press it in.
Also a good purpose for the long blade, out of experience, if the roll is not too thick, you can use it rolled
Straight
up
through, yeah.
and know if whatever the width is and just cut it to width the whole roll without it being unrolled,
Yeah,
and then unroll it, cut it to length and be good.
that's it.
Also a quick way.
Well, another very interesting accessory, once you have repetitive cuts, is something in conjunction, and it's important for Festool, as you know, if we are the inventors of guide rails, we also have an adapter for the ISC 240 to attach on a guide rail.
Looks like a tiny Hot Wheels. On that
Just
box.
sit it on there, yeah. Of course, you can use it also that way, straight with some insulating material, such as this. You just so even that would work.
But you can see if you don't have anything that pushes against it. So if it stands upright, it's the floor.
Yeah,
And
it's
right
not
now there's nothing.
and it's not getting square, yeah, because we have the height of the base. So that's why, for example, if you attach on either side a strip of a 19mm chipboard or OSB panel, you might equalize that, and then you get a nice and square cut, even on
Exactly.
materials like that. Now back to the topic guide rail. Yeah, not to miss that.
Happens so often that we go off topic. So what
Again,
you got?
several options. Either you have a TS55 already fitted with a guide rail system, easy to use that one, so it's the same machine. Then you only need to purchase this angle unit, which
Yep.
can be easily attached on the side. Important is that you lift it up all the way up and then you fold it around.
So don't get it up too much because then it will unplug basically and then go 90 degrees.
Yeah. And there's a little claw that holds it in place, right there.
That's good.
Put that on the ground. Why would you like to have it? Is that okay that way, or
Perfect.
turn around?
Perfect.
And finally, that's the adapter for my saw, and I got a kind of a track saw as well, as like for the TS55. What you also can set or preset is your roof pitch. You have an indicator right there.
Right.
Yeah. So now, for example, let's guess we have a roof pitch of some 26 degrees.
Which is not that uncommon.
Yeah. Then I have a stop, so that's what I said. If you have some repetitive cuts, then you can set the roof pitch and you get a nice and perfect connection there.
And now if you would put like a chipboard left and right of the guide rail, you'd be perfectly
Square.
fine and square. That's the thing that I always recommend my carpenters.
Just to give you an idea how that one works. So in our earlier session, Phil said, okay, we are working for a scraping company, so we need to have a pretty short cutoff.
Yeah, stuff's expensive.
Yeah, I fully agree. But that's the way it would work.
What's really important, you can move all the way forward, but it has an automatic stop, so you cannot cut into the angle
Stop
or
there. So
the
it
blade.
protects the blade.
And now you got
It's-
a pretty cut.
It's as easy as that.
It's so satisfying. My God. So that's could also be done with glass wool, rock wool, hemp, whatever we talked about, or
Yep.
even that polyester stuff all the way in the back. That's not really common, but almost impossible to cut with anything else. But talking about insulating your house, not the roof, but like the front or the side walls or whatever, you usually use some kind of polyurethane or other kind of polyester or whatever material.
Yeah. So that's already these denser materials, so that are not possible to be cut with the corrugated blade.
Yep.
So that's what we need a kind of a jigsaw blade for.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the black one. Basically, you can see it looks like just a long jigsaw blade.
And it's also one blade, not two.
It's only one blade, which is enough. But again, available in either 240, which is this, or the 350 mil length for these diagonal cuts in
Yep.
thicker materials.
One thing, the included blade with the machine is always the 240 corrugated blade.
That's it. Correct.
So,
Now, in order if we need to cut, let's say, something off like that.
just to show you how precise the line is.
Yeah. It's
Nice.
gonna be cut later on. Yeah, there was something wrong on the.
Well, we got ways to cut it straight.
Yeah. Nevertheless, we need to replace the blade for the softer materials against the saw blade for the denser materials.
So,
So I release it here. Just move it out less here.
thank you. That material, that dustiness from the wood fiber
Could be.
always makes me sneeze.
Now again, same procedure. We have our two locating pins that keep the blade in position. And only then you are able to lock
Yeah.
the cover in a proper way.
If the pins are not placed correctly, you won't be able to screw it tight, or it will screw tightly, but you will. It's super quick. It's like half or two ways
Revolutions,
around,
yeah.
and then you just slightly move on the blade, just like a tiny jiggle, and then it would fit in place.
Correct. Now, even with a blade like this, I could use it for a free-handed cut.
Yeah.
No matter at all. But I would definitely struggle if I would try to cut this one from the top. Yeah? No way. And that's why we have a little support, a little table that could be attached right here, which is also part of the content of our machine.
So all the two different attachments that we've shown or going to show you are always included, even if you buy the basic version of the machine.
And if I turn this one around, you can also see the both gaps that are again to be seen in conjunction with our guide rail system. So that's another option to get a straight cut.
Yeah.
But first of all, that's nothing more but a support.
So you
Just
snap
snap it in,
slightly unscrewed the screw,
unscrewed it,
just a teeny tiny bit, and then fasten it again.
and after that, once I snapped it in, I just tightened
Good.
that thumb screw, and that's it. And now I got a nice support. Again, that's why I put this even unstraight indicator, but I have a kind of an indicator right there just to follow that cut.
Yeah.
To line this up. And
But-
to have it perfect, of course, then we just need to attach our guide rail system.
So the only thing that's really important, usually we use the guide rail, make a mark, put the guide rail on the mark and cut it, but in this case it's slightly different.
Yep.
So the machine is going to run next to the guide rail.
Yeah.
And to make your lives easier, we got a
line
mark
up
on
like
top.
this. That's what I use it usually for lining up, either like that.
Either you do it this way, or if you
Measure
just
it.
want to do
Yeah.
do 2 marks or whatever, just include 5 centimeters. It's 5 centimeters.
That's the width of the
Exactly.
adapter. Well, this might become wobbly, so that's where we either have our common G
Ooh.
clamps or something which is very comfortable
Ooh.
too.
Ooh, handy.
A quick fixing element, because with these ones you might damage your material.
Yep.
If you hold it from
Right,
the
I'll do
both ends, you might damage it also a little bit, but you don't have it in the service later on. That's why, that's from my point of view a much better solution.
So, you
Besides,
gotta
Hmm?
you do yours first. And then
Shall we give
just
it a
slide
helping
it in.
hand?
Oh, good, good.
slide it in.
So you slide it in the groove,
Yeah.
move it in place, tighten it.
And finally, on the front end, I have the same thing. Attach it, and with this lever, I can build up the pressure, and that's why it's called a quick fixing element, because I can easily line up the machine,
Looks
roughly the
fine,
same,
looks fine.
and just hold it in place.
So that's
Yeah.
your way of clamping it.
That's it. Yeah. And to release the whole thing, we have a little silver button on the bottom that deactivates the whole
Yep. And I'm gonna get you the hose. Do you still know what battery pack is connected?
Basically, I don't, but
So
for me,
just
as
to
you know,
show you guys, because it's really quickly done. The battery pack that we put on that saw is not the battery pack that we connected earlier. So there's an easy fix for that. You don't have to detach the other one or whatever. Just go to your dust extractor, flip it around so your camera can see it, and just turn it off, turn it on auto again, press the blue button, block.
it's a green button which illuminates blue.
Exactly. Block. Okay.
All right, ready to go?
Yep. So as you've seen, there's a teeny tiny bit of snow on the floor. So take into account the blade moves 27 millimeters, but the material that we cut is 10 centimeters. So it only can get like the
Yeah.
top half or roundabout of dust.
25% of the dust you can collect, because
Exactly.
the rest stays inside the material. And that's
Exactly.
getting worse the thicker the material becomes.
Exactly.
But nevertheless, if you have some let's say polyurethane-based insulating materials, some people react very sensitive on these vapors.
Yeah.
On these dusts and foams or smokes, let's say,
Yeah.
once they appear. So that's when an easy possibility to just extract the
At least
vapors
some of it.
spot on.
Exactly. Nice. Then I think we're done with the installation saw. Also recommended with a smaller battery pack, like the 3.1 or the 4.0 is totally sufficient for that machine and it makes it lighter. But it's always up to preference. So if you cut always in the upright fashion, then a slightly heavier battery pack is kind of handy because it helps you basically pull the blade down. And now I think we're out of time, but we're also done. So
That's perfect timing,
Nice.
I'd say. So Phil, thanks for your assistance.
always a pleasure.
Hope you had out there on the screens a lot of fun, and you know now a little bit more about the Festool 18 volt range.
Exactly.
Thanks very much for watching.
Have a great day. Bye.